The endless expanse of stars stretched before Captain Sarah Chen as she stood at the observation deck of the United Earth Command Station Helios. The emergency summons had come 3 hours ago, pulling her from a rare moment of sleep. Now she found herself staring into the void, wondering what crisis demanded her immediate presence this time. "Captain." Admiral Rice's voice cut through her thoughts. She turned to face him, noting the deep shadows under his eyes and the slight tremor in his usually steady hands. "Thank you for coming so quickly." "Sir." She nodded, straightening her uniform. "What's the situation?" The Admiral gestured to a holographic display flickering to life between them. 12 hours ago, we lost contact with the Centauri colonies. All of them. Simultaneously. He paused, letting the implications sink in. 2 hours later, we lost Proxima Station. Then Alpha Base. They're just gone. Sarah's throat tightened. Thousands of lives vanished without a trace. Hostile action. We thought so at first. But this. He manipulated the display, showing a spreading darkness that seemed to devour light itself. "This is unlike anything we've ever encountered. We're calling it the Void." The darkness in the hologram pulsed, almost alive. Sarah watched as it consumed digital representations of stars, leaving nothing but emptiness in its wake. How long? At its current rate of expansion, 6 months before it reaches Earth, maybe less. The Admiral's voice cracked. "We're looking at the potential extinction of not just humanity, but every species in this arm of the galaxy." Sarah's mind raced through possible defensive strategies, each one falling short against an enemy that could simply erase existence itself. "What are our options?" "That's why you're here." Admiral Rice touched another control, and the hologram shifted to show something that made Sarah's breath catch. A massive ship, unlike anything in Earth's fleet, its hull bearing markings that seemed to shift and change as she watched. "During our evacuation of the Proxima colonies, we found something. Something that had been hidden there for centuries, maybe millennia." The Admiral's eyes gleamed with desperate hope. "We call it the Sentinel. And you, Captain Chen, are going to command it." Sarah stepped closer to the hologram, studying the vessel's impossible geometry. "What is it?" "We don't know. Not entirely. But our best scientists believe it was built by an ancient civilization, one that might have faced something similar to the Void. Its power source is unlike anything we've ever seen, and its weapons." He shook his head in wonder. "They don't just destroy targets. They seem to rewrite the very fabric of space-time. And you think this ship can stop the Void?" "I think it's our only chance." The Admiral handed her a data crystal. "You have 12 hours to assemble your crew. Choose carefully. We won't get a second chance at this." As Sarah took the crystal, alarms blared throughout the station. The hologram flickered, showing new data that made the Admiral's face go pale. "The Void," he whispered. "It's accelerating. God help us all." Sarah squared her shoulders, years of training taking over. "How long do we have?" 2 months. Maybe less. Then we have no choice." She tucked the crystal into her uniform. "Permission to begin immediate crew selection." "Sir." "Granted." The Admiral hesitated, then added, "Sarah, this mission. It's not just about saving Earth anymore. The Void is spreading in all directions. If we fail, if you fail." "I understand, sir." And she did. The weight of not just humanity but countless civilizations now rested on her shoulders. "We won't fail." As she strode from the observation deck, Sarah's mind was already cycling through potential crew members. She would need the best, not just the best soldiers or pilots, but people who could think beyond conventional tactics. Because whatever the Void was, whatever ancient force had built the Sentinel, they were about to venture into territory no human had ever faced before. The next 12 hours passed in a blur of personnel files and emergency preparations. Sarah selected her core crew with careful precision. Dr. Marcus Wong, a theoretical physicist whose unconventional theories about spacetime had gotten him laughed out of academia. Lieutenant Kira Patel, whose innovative approach to stellar navigation had saved countless lives during the Proxima evacuation. And Commander James Rodriguez, a tactical genius whose understanding of three-dimensional combat had revolutionized fleet doctrine. As she made her final selections, a junior officer burst into her temporary office, face ashen. "Captain, the void. It's touched the outer edges of the Sol system. Jupiter's moons. They're just gone." Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, allowing herself one brief second of fear before pushing it aside. "Alert the crew. We launch in 30 minutes. The Sentinel waited in high orbit, its massive form dwarfing the Earth ships around it. As Sarah's shuttle approached, she could see the strange patterns on its hull more clearly now, symbols that seemed to shift and change even as she watched them, as if the ship itself was alive and breathing. "Beautiful, isn't she?" Dr. Wang's voice came from behind her. The physicist had insisted on riding up with her, his excitement barely contained. "The energy readings we're getting. Captain, this ship doesn't just bend the rules of physics, it rewrites them entirely." "Let's hope that's enough." Sarah watched as they drew closer to their new home, their last hope. Because whatever the void is, whatever created it, we're about to find out if humanity is ready to face it. The shuttle docked with a soft thud, and Sarah led her crew aboard what would either be humanity's salvation or its tomb. As they made their way to the bridge, the ship seemed to come alive around them, lights pulsing in patterns that felt almost welcoming. "All stations, report," Sarah commanded as she took her place in the captain's chair, feeling the strange energy of the ship humming through her. One by one, her crew confirmed their readiness. As the last acknowledgement came in, the ship's systems suddenly surged, displays lighting up with information in languages both familiar and utterly alien. "Captain," Kira called out, her voice tight with urgency. "The void. It's changed course. It's coming straight for Earth." Sarah's hands tightened on her armrests. This was it. No more preparation, no more planning. They were out of time. "All hands," she broadcast throughout the ship. "This is your captain speaking. What we face today is unlike anything humanity has encountered before. But we are not alone in this fight. This ship, the Sentinel, represents the legacy of those who faced similar darkness and found a way to push it back. Now it's our turn." She took a deep breath, watching as the void's darkness began to eclipse distant stars. "Launch sequence initiated. May whatever gods exist have mercy on us all." The Sentinel's engines roared to life, and humanity's last hope surged forward to meet its destiny. The Sentinel cut through space like a blade of light, its ancient engines humming with power that defied conventional physics. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the command center, watching as the ship's sensors mapped the devastation left in the void's wake. What had once been thriving star systems were now empty patches of nothingness, wounds in the fabric of space itself. "Captain," Lieutenant Patel's voice broke through the tense silence. "We're picking up multiple distress signals. Looks like a convoy of refugee ships, about 2 light years out. They're running from something." Sarah didn't need to ask what they were running from. The void's signature was unmistakable on their long-range sensors, a creeping darkness that consumed everything in its path. How many ships? 17 vessels of various sizes and configurations, multiple species signatures, some I've never seen before. Patel's fingers danced across her console. "They're in bad shape, Captain. Fuel reserves critical, life support failing on at least 3 ships. Plot an intercept course," Sarah ordered. "Commander Rodriguez, begin calculating emergency docking procedures. Dr. Wang, I need to know if we can support that many refugees." As her crew scrambled to respond, Sarah studied the sensor readings more closely. The refugee fleet was a mismatched collection of vessels, everything from massive generation ships to small personal craft. All of them were pushing their engines beyond safe limits, desperate to stay ahead of the encroaching darkness. "Captain," Dr. Wang called out, his voice tight with excitement. "You need to see this. The void, it's not just destroying things. It's reorganizing space-time itself. These readings suggest it's not a natural phenomenon at all. It's engineered." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "Engineered by whom?" "That's the thing," Wang replied, adjusting his displays. "The energy signatures are incredibly complex, but they follow patterns. Mathematical sequences that couldn't possibly occur naturally. Someone built this thing. Someone with technology far beyond anything we've ever seen." Before Sarah could respond, the ship's proximity alerts blared. The refugee fleet had detected their approach, and several of the larger vessels had taken up defensive positions. "We're being hailed," Patel announced. "Multiple channels, multiple languages." "Open a channel," Sarah commanded. "All frequencies." The main view screen flickered to life, showing a mosaic of faces, some humanoid, others utterly alien. Fear was the one universal expression they all shared. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth ship Sentinel," she announced, keeping her voice steady and calm. "We've detected your distress signals and are here to render assistance." A tall crystalline being stepped forward on one of the screens. When it spoke, its words were translated by the Sentinel systems with only a slight delay. "I am Elder Vix of the Crystalline Concordat. We appreciate your offer, Captain, but you must turn back. The darkness follows us. We cannot stop. We cannot fight. We can only run." "The void," Sarah corrected gently. "We call it the void. And running isn't an option anymore. It's expanding faster than any ship can travel. We need to find a way to stop it." "Impossible," another voice cut in, this one belonging to a being that seemed to be made of living smoke. "We have tried everything. Weapons pass through it without effect. Shields fail before it. Even our most advanced technology is useless." "Perhaps," Sarah acknowledged. "But this ship," she paused, considering how much to reveal. "This ship was built by someone who knew about the void, someone who might have found a way to fight it." The alien leaders fell silent, considering her words. Finally, Elder Vix spoke again. "You speak of the predecessors, the ones who came before, who built wonders we still cannot comprehend. But they vanished months ago, leaving only ruins and mysteries. And this ship," Sarah added, "the Sentinel isn't just a vessel. It's a key to understanding what we're facing. But we need help. Your people have technologies we've never seen, knowledge we don't possess. Together, we might have a chance." As if to emphasize her point, the void's signature suddenly spiked on their sensors. The darkness was accelerating, moving faster than they'd ever recorded. "It's adapting," Dr. Wang announced, his voice filled with both fear and fascination. "Learning, evolving. Captain, if we're going to do something, we need to do it now." Sarah looked at the faces on her screen. Beings from across the galaxy, each carrying the last hopes of their civilizations. "We can offer you refuge," she said, "but more than that, we're offering you a chance to fight back, to understand what we're facing and find a way to stop it. The choice is yours." The alien leaders conferred among themselves, their discussions a cacophony of translated arguments and debates. Finally, Elder Vix raised a crystalline hand for silence. "We have traveled so far," the elder said, "lost so much. Perhaps it is time to stop running. The Crystalline Concordat will stand with you, Captain Chen." One by one, the other leaders voiced their agreement. As the refugee ships began docking procedures with the Sentinel, Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. They weren't just gathering survivors. They were assembling the greatest collection of scientific and technological knowledge the galaxy had ever seen. But as the last ship docked, Dr. Wang made a discovery that changed everything. "Captain," he called out, his voice barely a whisper, "I've been analyzing the void's pattern of expansion. It's not random. It's searching for something. And I think," he swallowed hard, "I think it's searching for this ship." Sarah watched as the darkness crept closer on their long-range sensors, its tendrils reaching out like hungry fingers across the stars. Whatever the void was, whatever had created it, they were about to discover why the Sentinel had been hidden away for so long, and what price they might have to pay for awakening it. The Sentinel's vast corridors echoed with the footsteps and voices of a dozen different species, each bringing their own knowledge and expertise to humanity's last hope. Captain Sarah Chen walked through her transformed ship, watching as crystalline engineers worked alongside smoke-form physicists, their combined technologies beginning to unlock the Sentinel's deeper mysteries. "Captain," Dr. Wong called out, hurrying to catch up with her. His eyes were bright with excitement, lacking sleep but full of purpose. "We found something. The alien archivists. They helped us decode part of the ship's database." Sarah followed him to what had become their primary research hub, a chamber where holographic displays showed streams of ancient data. Elder Vix stood at the center, crystal form refracting light in complex patterns that the ship's systems somehow translated into data. "The ship speaks to us," Elder Vix announced, gesturing to the swirling symbols. "Not in words, but in pure mathematics. The predecessors, they weren't just advanced. They had transcended conventional physics." "What have you found?" Sarah asked, studying the incomprehensible equations that filled the air. "The void," Dr. Wong explained. "It's not just a weapon. It's a tool. The predecessors created it to reshape reality itself. But something went wrong. The void, it gained consciousness, began acting on its own." Sarah felt her blood run cold. "You're saying it's alive?" "In a way we can barely comprehend," Elder Vix confirmed. "It doesn't just consume space. It processes it, learns from it, and now it hunts the very tools that were meant to control it." "Like the Sentinel," Sarah concluded. "Exactly." Dr. Wong pulled up new data streams. "But that's not all. The ship, it wasn't built as a weapon. It's a key. The predecessors created a network of stations throughout the galaxy, meant to contain and control the void. The Sentinel was designed to activate them." Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Commander Rodriguez's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain, to the bridge. Now." Sarah ran, her mind racing with the implications of what she'd just learned. When she reached the bridge, she found her crew staring at the main view screen in horror. The void had changed. What had been a formless darkness was now taking shape, massive tentacles of nothingness reaching across space, moving with terrible purpose. "It's accelerating again," Rodriguez reported grimly. "But that's not the worst part. Look at this." He highlighted a section of the sensor data. "It's not just following us anymore. It's hurting us." "Hurting us where?" "Unknown." But Rodriguez was cut off by a sudden surge of energy that rippled through the ship. The Sentinel systems flared to life, ancient machinery awakening with new purpose. "Captain," Patel called out from her station. "The ship, it's responding to the void's presence. I'm getting coordinates, some kind of automated response." "The network," Sarah realized. "The ship knows where the control stations are. It's trying to take us there." "Multiple contacts," Rodriguez announced suddenly. "Ships dropping out of FTL. Dozens of them. Unknown configurations. The view screen filled with vessels unlike anything they'd seen before. Dark, angular shapes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with impossible precision, forming a barrier between the Sentinel and its apparent destination. "We're being hailed," Paddle reported. On screen, the figure that appeared was humanoid, but there was something wrong about it, as if its form was merely a courtesy, a shape adopted to ease communication. "We are the Guardians," it announced in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "You carry that which must not be awakened. Surrender the Sentinel, and your species will be spared." Sarah felt the weight of every life aboard her ship pressing down on her shoulders. "You know what this ship is," she said. "You know what it can do." "We know that some doors must remain closed," the Guardian replied. The predecessor's arrogance nearly destroyed reality itself. We will not allow their weapons to be used again. Weapons? Sarah challenged. The void is your weapon. You're not containing it. You're controlling it, using it to reshape the galaxy according to your will. The Guardian's form flickered. Better a controlled darkness than chaos. The predecessors sought to play God with the fundamental forces of reality. We bring order. You bring extinction. Sarah countered. How many civilizations have you erased? How many species have you sacrificed for your order? Necessary sacrifices. The void cleanses that which threatens stability. Your discovery of the Sentinel has marked your species for termination. But we are not without mercy. Surrender now. Sarah looked around her bridge, at her human crew, at their alien allies, at all they had discovered together. She thought of the Sentinel's true purpose, of the network waiting to be awakened. No, she said simply. Then you have chosen extinction. The Guardian's image vanished, and the dark ships began to move. Battle stations, Sarah ordered, her voice steady. Dr. Wong, Elder Vix, I need everything you've learned about this ship's capabilities. Now. As her crew scrambled to respond, Sarah felt the Sentinel's energy building around them. The ship had been waiting for this moment, she realized. Waiting for someone to choose resistance over surrender. Commander Rodriguez, plot a course through their lines. Lieutenant Patel, divert all power to the main systems. She took a deep breath. Whatever the predecessors built this ship to do, we're about to find out. The void reached for them with its dark tendrils as the Guardian ships opened fire. But within the Sentinel's ancient halls, something was awakening. Something that remembered its true purpose, not as a weapon of war, but as a key to salvation. The battle for reality itself was about to begin. The Sentinel shuddered under another barrage from the Guardian ships, its ancient shields flickering but holding. Inside the bridge, Captain Sarah Chen gripped her command chair as emergency lights pulsed in warning patterns. They were surrounded, outgunned, and running out of options. Shields at 30%. Rodriguez reported, his hands dancing across tactical controls. We can't take much more of this. The void is closing in from all vectors. Patel added, her voice tense. 10 minutes before total containment. Sarah watched as the dark tendrils of the void curled around them, herded into position by the Guardian fleet. But something felt wrong about their attack pattern. They're not trying to destroy us, she realized aloud. They're trying to disable us. They want the ship intact. Captain, Dr. Wong's voice crackled over the comm. You need to see this. Now. Hold position. Sarah ordered her bridge crew. Keep them busy. She ran through the corridors of her wounded ship, passing crews of humans and aliens working together to maintain systems and repair damage. When she reached the research hub, she found Wong and Elder Vix standing before a holographic display that made her breath catch. The display showed human DNA, but it was unlike any genetic pattern she'd ever seen. Strands of code pulsed with an inner light that seemed to respond to their presence. What am I looking at? She demanded. The impossible, Elder Vix answered, crystal form vibrating with excitement. We were wrong about the predecessors. They didn't vanish. They didn't die. They seeded themselves across the galaxy, hiding their essence in the genetic code of promising species. And humanity, Wong continued, carries the largest concentration of their genetic markers we've ever seen. Captain, we're not just their descendants. We're their failsafe. Sarah's mind raced with the implications. The Guardians. They must know. They do, Wong confirmed. That's why they're so desperate to stop us. The void doesn't just reshape space, it reshapes life itself. And humans, we're not just resistant to it. We can control it. As if in response to his words, the ship's lights flickered, and Sarah felt something stir within her, a connection to the Sentinel that went beyond mere technology. The ship wasn't just responding to her commands, it was resonating with her very DNA. How? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. The predecessors built the Sentinel as more than a key, Elder Vix explained. It's a bridge between what we are and what we could become. But it needs a catalyst, a being carrying the right genetic sequence to activate its true potential. Another explosion rocked the ship. Captain to the bridge. Rodriguez's voice was urgent. The Guardians are launching boarders. Sarah looked at the DNA display again, understanding flooding through her. How do we activate it? It's not that simple, Wong warned. The process would rewrite your genetic code at a fundamental level. The energy involved. No one has ever survived such a transformation. But it would work. Wong nodded reluctantly. In theory, yes. Your altered DNA would create a quantum resonance that could awaken the predecessor technology within the ship. But Captain, the needs of the many, Doctor, Sarah cut him off. Show me what to do. The next few minutes were a blur of preparations. As Guardian boarding parties fought their way through the ship's outer defenses, Sarah stood in the Sentinel's core, surrounded by humming machinery that seemed to pulse in time with her heartbeat. The transformation chamber is ready, Elder Vix announced. But Captain, you should know, even if you survive, you won't be entirely human anymore. Sarah thought of Earth, of all the species counting on them, of the countless civilizations already lost to the void. Maybe that's exactly what humanity needs to become. She stepped into the chamber as alarms blared throughout the ship. Through the transparent walls, she could see Wong and Vix working at the controls, their movements urgent but precise. Guardian forces have breached Deck 7. Rodriguez's voice reported over the comm. We can't hold them back much longer. Begin the sequence, Sarah ordered. Energy surged through the chamber, and Sarah felt her world dissolve into pure light. Pain unlike anything she'd ever experienced tore through her body as ancient genes awakened, rewriting her very existence. Through the agony, she became aware of something vast and ancient stirring within the ship, within herself. The Sentinel wasn't just a vessel. It was a bridge between what humanity was and what it could become, and she was the key that would finally unlock its true purpose. As her consciousness expanded, she could feel every part of the ship, every crew member, every Guardian attacker. She could see the void for what it truly was, not just a weapon, but a tool of creation waiting to be properly wielded. When the transformation ended, Sarah Chen opened eyes that now glowed with inner light. Her DNA had been rewritten, awakening potential that had lain dormant since the predecessors seeded Earth with their genetic legacy. Captain, Wong's voice seemed to come from a great distance. Are you? I understand now, Sarah replied, her voice resonating with new power. I understand everything. She rose from the chamber, energy crackling around her form. Through the ship's sensors, through her new senses, she could feel the Guardian borders advancing, the void pressing closer, the fear and hope of every being aboard. All hands, she broadcasted, her thoughts becoming words throughout the ship. Prepare for transformation. The real battle begins now. The Sentinel's ancient machinery surged to life, responding to her transformed presence. They had been running from the darkness, but now it was time to step into the light, to become what humanity was always meant to be. The Guardians had thought to contain them, to prevent the awakening of powers they feared. But they had forgotten the most fundamental truth about humanity. When pushed to the edge of extinction, humans didn't just survive. They evolved. The Sentinel's corridors blazed with light as Sarah Chen, transformed by ancient power, moved through her ship with newfound purpose. Guardian boarding parties fell back before her, their weapons useless against the energy that now flowed through her being. Through her expanded consciousness, she could feel the ship's systems integrating with her transformed DNA, unlocking capabilities that had lain dormant for millennia. The void is responding to your presence, Dr. Wong reported from the science station, his voice filled with awe. Its pattern is changing. Sarah nodded, feeling the truth of his words in every cell of her transformed body. The void wasn't just a weapon of destruction. It was a tool of creation, waiting for the right hand to guide it. Through her new senses, she could see the quantum strings that bound reality together, could feel the pulse of space-time itself. Guardian vessels are moving to surround us, Commander Rodriguez reported. They're charging weapons. Let them come, Sarah replied, her voice resonating with newfound power. It's time they understood what they've been fighting against. She reached out with her mind, connecting with the Sentinel's core systems. The ship's ancient machinery hummed in response, recognizing the awakened predecessor genes in her DNA. Energy coursed through the vessel's hull, transforming it from mere metal into something far more profound. By the stars, Elder Vix whispered, crystal form vibrating in response to the energy waves. The ship, it's evolving. The Sentinel's structure began to shift, its form becoming more organic, more alive. The metal seemed to flow like liquid, reshaping itself according to patterns encoded in Sarah's transformed consciousness. This was what the predecessors had intended, not just a ship, but a living key to unlock the universe's deeper mysteries. Multiple Guardian ships opening fire, Rodriguez called out. Sarah raised her hand, and the incoming energy beams simply stopped. Not deflected, not absorbed, but frozen in space-time itself. Through her connection to the ship, she could see the fear growing among the Guardian forces. They had sought to prevent this very moment, this awakening of power they couldn't control. You fought so hard to maintain your order, Sarah broadcast to the Guardian fleet, her thoughts carrying across the void. But order without growth is just another form of death. She released her hold on the frozen weapons fire, letting it dissipate harmlessly into space. The void right around them, its darkness responding to her presence like an instrument waiting to be played. The control network, Sarah commanded. Show me. The ship's displays lit up with a map of the galaxy, showing the location of every predecessor station, the points of light that could either contain or redirect the void's power. But Sarah could see now that containment had never been the true purpose. They're not control points, she realized aloud. They're transformation points. The predecessors didn't want to destroy the void. They wanted to use it to elevate all life in the galaxy. Captain, Wong's voice was urgent. The void. It's completely surrounding us now. But it's not attacking. Sarah smiled, because it recognizes what we are, what we were always meant to be. She reached out again, not just with the ship's systems, but with her transformed consciousness, touching the very essence of the void itself. It responded to her call, its darkness beginning to pulse with inner light. Guardian vessels are powering up some kind of super weapon, Rodriguez reported, but his voice seemed distant now. Sarah could feel the fear and desperation in the Guardian ships, their determination to maintain the old order at any cost. But she could also feel something else, the combined hope and potential of every being aboard the Sentinel, human and alien alike. We've spent so long fighting the darkness, she broadcast to both her crew and the Guardian fleet. But darkness isn't the enemy. Fear is. Fear of change, fear of evolution, fear of becoming something more than what we are. The void swirled around the Sentinel, no longer a weapon of destruction, but a cradle of creation. Sarah began to sing, not with her voice, but with her transformed essence. The ship sang with her, and then the void itself joined the chorus. Reality shimmered as ancient harmonies awakened. Guardian ships began to break formation, their crews overwhelmed by the transformation occurring before them. The void was changing, becoming something new. Not a tool of destruction or control, but a bridge between what was and what could be. The network stations, Wong called out in amazement. They're activating. All of them. Sarah felt the surge of power as each predecessor station awakened, creating a web of energy that spanned the galaxy. This was what they had planned all along, not an end, but a beginning. To all ships, all species, all beings, Sarah broadcast, her consciousness reaching across space. The time of hiding is over. The time of fear is done. We stand at the dawn of something new. The void pulsed one final time, and then its darkness transformed into light. not destroying reality, but elevating it. Sarah felt the change rippling through space, through time, through the very essence of every living thing it touched. Human and alien, matter and energy, past and future, all began to merge and transform, guided by the patterns encoded in predecessor DNA. This was evolution on a cosmic scale, the fulfillment of a plan set in motion eons ago. The Guardian ships hum motionless in space, their crews transfixed by the transformation occurring around them. Their ancient mission of control and containment had been rendered obsolete by something far more powerful, the potential for growth, for change, for becoming more than the sum of their parts. As the light of transformation spread across the galaxy, Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Sentinel, no longer just a captain, no longer just human, but a bridge between what was and what would be. Through her new senses, she could feel the awakening of countless civilizations, the birth of new potential in every species touched by the light. What happens now? Lieutenant Patel asked softly. Sarah smiled, watching as the galaxy itself began to transform. Now we begin the real journey. The story of what life can become when it stops fearing the dark and learns to embrace the light. The Sentinel, once Earth's last hope, had become something more. A catalyst for change, a key to unlock the potential hidden within every living thing. And as the new dawn spread across the stars, Sarah knew that this wasn't an ending. It was, in every sense that mattered, just the beginning.